I think we're live now.
Okay, fantastic.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We just want to be sure that you can see and hear us. So, can you please type hi if you can see and hear us? Actually, we want to be sure before we set the ball rolling. So, I'll just also check on my own side here. Yeah,
Okay,
we're live. Yeah, we're
awesome,
live. So, we have 10 people in the chat.
fantastic. That's a very good start.
Great. We're in for an amazing time today. I can see some people are already on the chat, and we are just going to, go straight into today's webinar. But before we do so, we are going to be introducing ourselves and telling you, a bit about ourselves and getting ready for the webinar. So please, I just need to be sure that everyone can hear us before we start talking. Please, if you can hear us, can you type great? Hi, Victoria Sass. Great. Okay, very good. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on today's webinar. We start off by talking about our individual experiences. We're so happy that you are here, and we promise that it's going to be an amazing, power-packed webinar. So get your pens ready, invite your friends, send this link to everyone that you know that has applied for Chevening Scholarship and has gotten to the interview stage. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to be bringing a guest on the show, a surprise guest, and he will equally share his experience. So I hope that you all are ready for this webinar. First on the list, what we're going to be doing, we'll talk about our experience on the interview panel. Larry will go first, and then I will follow after Larry. Secondly, we are going to talk about the Chevening interview. Regularly, we split the Chevening interview into three phases. We have the pre-interview, we have the post-interview, and then we have, the interview itself. So Larry Schupa is going to be sharing what a typical applicant should be doing pre-interview, during interview, and we'll also be talking about post-interview. And then our surprise guest, um, who is also a Chevening scholar, but attended the University of Sussex, will also share his experience about the interview and post-interview, what you should be doing when you are done with your interview, right? And then we're going to go to how to effectively craft your interview responses to ensure a solid delivery. And trust me, if you have ever been on a call where Larry Shipper has shared about his experience for Chevening, trust me, is always, always very impactful. At least I've watched some of his videos and listened to some of the webinars that he did. And yeah, I also got Chevening scholarship. So we're going to move to the Q&A, and that will be the end of this session. And the Q&A session, I'll be, highlighting some of the questions on the screen. So do well to prepare your questions beforehand. And when the Q&A is up, you can drop your questions, and I'm going to highlight it, and everyone can see. But get your pen and paper ready because you are in for an amazing time. So without further ado, like some people say, welcome once again, and we're just going to set the ball rolling. First on the agenda, or first on the list, I'm going to be asking Larry Shaper, please, can you share your experience on the interview panel? What did you experience on the interview panel? What did it look like during your own time?
Fantastic, Temilade. Thank you very much for bringing me on board, and it's so great to see your face. Even though I've seen your face multiple times today. Anyways, I think it's important for us to do some basic um, room room management rules. The first thing would be yes, I won the Chevening Scholarship in 2017 to study an MA in International Education and Development at the University of Sussex, which is the same institution that you're attending right now. But having said that, it is good or important for us to say that all of the tips, claims, and expressions that will be made on this webinar does not represent the views and the mandate of the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office or the Chevening Secretariat or the British High Commissions across the world. It's important for us to note and put that forward. So I was interviewed in the year 2017, and I think I would emphasize that the dynamics of the Chevening interview then is different from the realities now, right? So I'd gotten the email informing me that I've been selected to come interview for one of the available, awards for that year. And I remember vividly that I took time. I took time to prepare for that interview. It's important to note from this point that the Chevening interview generally, as I've always maintained to anybody, is usually about three interlinked factors. Three things that can determine or inform your final selection. Because I used to tell people at this point in time, everybody that has been invited to the interview panel is a scholar already. You are only showing up at the interview to say, here I am, do not select me. People used to, be surprised when I say that. And that is because you have already impressed the independent reading committee in London or anywhere that you are really good and you have expressed that on paper. What they are trying to do would be to connect faces or connect an individual to the expressions that you've made on your application. So the three things that I mentioned, the first one is about preparedness. The second thing is about delivery. And the third one is the credibility of your candidature. Three things: preparedness, delivery, and the credibility of your candidature. So if you put all of those three things together and you do your homework well, at the end of the day, there is every tendency that you are going to make the final cut, right? Now, use the understanding of that three factors and connect with the story that I want to share about my experience going for the Chevening interview. So to start with, when I got the interview invite, it was full of excitement, but at the same time, I knew that there is a task at hand. I need to justify if I am indeed worthy of the, gigantic investment that the UK government is going to make on my education. The third one is the credibility of your candidature, preparedness, delivery, and the credibility of your candidature. Because you are a candidate, right? You are not a scholar yet. And that's what I mean by the credibility of your candidature, right? I'm going to come back to that. I just want you to follow my story, being on the panel in relation to those three factors that I mentioned, right? So when I got the invitation, full of excitement, but at the same time, I knew there's a job at hand, which is what is important for every single person on this call right now who has gotten the interview invite. Fantastic job so far, but you are not there yet. And that is why you need to transition to the first part, which is about the preparedness. So for myself, I had to prepare. I took time away from work for 1 week, 7 days, right? And when I did that, I took time to connect with the essays that I've submitted in the first phase of the application, right? And when I got on the panel, it was an opportunity for me to translate all of the things that I've studied and all of the things that I've written in my first application, in my written application to the panel of judges, right? Or to the interview panel. I had 3 people on my panel. And based on, fundamental understanding of the interview process, you are going to have somebody from the High Commission. There is every tendency that you're going to have someone who is also representing, representing the, what do we call it? The British Council, right? And then the last one will be the interview, right? The people from the Chevening Alumni Committee, right? So the first one will be the British High Commission, the British Council, and someone from the Chevening Alumni Committee. So usually the interview panel have 3 people, and every one of them are seated on that panel that day for different functions, right? They are representative of Chevening, but at the same time, their mandate is different. So all I had to do would be to listen carefully to all of the questions. I took time to connect with every of the question that was put forward, and I ensured that I answered the questions accurately by using the question they asked me to rephrase or frame my answer. That was really important. And I was also able to leverage on their emotional connection. When you are responding to a question and somebody is looking at you and nodding their heads in affirmation, it is important for you to connect to them, right? To connect with them and be able to justify the assertiveness of your responses, which is being validated by their connection with you. In total, I was asked about 4 different questions. The 4 basic questions that they asked me was based on the 4 questions in the application itself. If you remember, for everybody on call, the application questions are four in number, with each of the question representing either leadership, networking, studying the UK, as well as career plan. Automatically, the four questions that was, that was asked was connected or just like the questions in the application. So what I had to do would be to ensure that I laid the foundation of my responses with the content of my application that I've submitted already, right? And the subsequent questions that I got are just questions that bore out of the responses that I've given to each of those four questions. So at the top of my head, I knew that the interview I was going for, the interview I went for, because we are talking about my experience and I'm trying to make it relatable to people as they prepare as well, are the four questions that I've written, responses to that got me to the interview stage. The only thing that comes on that are different or new is the fact that when I give a response and there are some interesting things I've mentioned, there's every tendency that the panel are going to ask me to clarify or provide more insight into something that I've mentioned, which was what happened to me. Roughly, I spent between 45 minutes to 1 hour on my interview panel. And I think it depends. Many times people say, I've been in different groups of Chevening interviewees, and it is laughable that people equate the length of your engagement to the potential of your final selection. Do not do that, right? Don't say because you spend 1 hour and 30 minutes inside, of course, or you spend 25 minutes. It's a function of the kind of engagement you have with your interview panels that would inform. So I spent 45 minutes on my panel responding to the questions that was tabled before me, and I left. Generally, the interview panel were very friendly. They showed me that they were not there to make me fail. They made it into a conversation and not like an interview session. And one of the things that they did when I came in was that, do you want water? And of course, yes, I want to drink water, right? So they gave me a cup. And then most importantly, they also gave me a writing pad and I think a pencil. Now, the significance of that is really important if you want to deliver on the second component, which is delivery. Yeah, I like that tautology, right? If you want to perform, right, in that interview session, please don't say because they gave you pen and paper and you think, what's that for? Please do collect it. Why that is important, just like what I did during my time, was that when they ask me a question, you have the liberty to pause and reflect, right? That reflection is an opportunity for you to look at the team word in the question that you have been asked and then prepare mentally how you are going to articulate your response based on what they've asked you. That is why it is important that if they give you pen and paper, do try to jot down the keywords in that question so that you can reflect and respond from that point of view or from that perspective. Now, they are not judging or giving points for how quick you are able to respond. No. So you don't have to rush yourself. If they've asked a question and then you did not hear well, it is always possible for you to ask them again. Those are some of the things that I can remember vividly from my interview. I got two females and then one male, and it was a memorable experience. And the depth of my responses even made one of the panel members to connect with my work and say, you know what, I need to read more about your work. And that is the great thing about the panel. They are there to listen to how well you have, you have been able to prepare for that interview session. I think you should take it up from here so that we don't get, we are still sharing your experiences, but at the same time, I'm using that to ensure that people can begin to think about some of the things we are going to say later on during this webinar. So let's hear about your experience as well. How did it go during your interview?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Lauren Shipper, for sharing. I think most people have almost same experience, but I think I would touch on, the very salient part that a lot of people might not really pay attention to. And the first
Okay.
one is be confident. See, one of the best things you can wear is your confidence garment. I mean,
Mm.
don't walk into the room There are ways you walk into a room and then they know that, yeah, this one is ready for business. So
Yep.
don't use your back to walk into the room or try to bend your head and be humble. I always tell people, see, Chevening Interview is not a game of humility. You are bringing your A game. So you are dressing to come and prove to them that, yeah, when I say dressing, I don't mean like go and buy, expensive clothes, but you're coming
Yep.
into the room to come and show them that, yes, I need to get this, I need to get this scholarship, right? So be very confident, very, very important. Then the second thing that I would like to say is that take your time. Just like Larry Shipper said, nobody's rushing you. And I think I've had interviews, and that's one of the interviews that felt really calm, right? I won't say really calm because, yeah, sometimes you are going to be nervous. It just comes with interview. But when I got
Yeah.
there, they were like, "Do you want water? This is a pen. Are you sure you're okay? Do you want?" I'm like, "Who gives you water during an interview?" It
I
was
know,
just
right?
it was very nice, and that made me really relax. And I think that's one of the things that also I want to assume that's one of the things they're also trying to do to make you know that it's a
Mm-hmm.
conversation and not a robotic question and answer session, right?
Succession. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the second thing that I would like to say is that ask again if you do not understand. There are
Mm.
so many times that you go for interviews and then they ask you question, but because you don't want to feel bad to say, please, can you come again? Or like, I didn't get that. Can you repeat
Yep.
or something? You will
What
just
you've
assume
said.
understand the question they are asking. So, for example,
Yep.
they can ask you a question like, can you tell us how you've been able to network and how that has played in the growth shape? I have to mute you. Your book is disturbing us. Yeah, in the growth of your organization or your career growth or your professional growth, right? If you don't understand that question, please just say, please, can you, like, I didn't get that, can you repeat? In fact, they will gladly repeat for you. So don't just feel shy or feel like because you're asking them to repeat the question, they will just disqualify you. In fact, I think I told them to repeat questions twice for me because I couldn't understand what the question was saying, and I wanted to make sure that I was hitting the point with my answers. And here is another trick. Sometimes you understand the question, but you want to also be sure that you are giving the right answer. So it's okay to ask that they repeat the question. Now, if they also give you like a paper and pen, don't say, I don't need it. Just take the paper and pen. Because trust me, the questions, they're like, I think 4 to 5. Okay, is it 4 to 5? I can't remember, but like four. Shipper, can you give me the number? I don't know what it's going to look like this year.
So four standard questions. So this is what we used to say as regards that. Nobody, I mean, from one of the things, and I mean, we have more people on call right now. So I think I want to repeat what I said in the beginning, that all of the tips, claims, and expressions on this call does not represent the views and mandates of the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development
Yeah,
Office, the Chevening Secretariat, or the British High Commissions across the world. I think it's important. So let
yeah,
me take on what you just mentioned. We don't know the kind of questions they ask. We don't know the number. But usually, fundamentally across the years, based on lived experience and shared experiences of Chevening scholar or alumni community, there are four standard questions, which are the same questions that you've been asked in your written application, right? So it is important to actually mention that, right? So it's going to be about leadership. It's going to be about networking. It's going to be about studying the UK. Why have you selected the universities and the courses that you've decided to go study in the UK? And then lastly, your career plan, right? So those are the
yeah.
four usual questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I was even trying to remember how many people were on my panel actually. So it varies for different countries. So we cannot say
Yeah.
this is it, this is it. But if I can remember, if I'm not too old, I think there were about 4 people on my panel or so. So my eyes were
Uh-huh.
just going through the panel session, looking left. This person will ask you questions. So see paper and pen. Please take
Mm.
it. It's the
Yep.
water, collect the water and drink the water, right? Take breaks. And the reason why you need that pen and paper, they will ask you questions. And one of the things that you also want to do is that when they ask you questions, you want to note the keywords. So they talk about professional growth and networking. That means they want to know how your networking has allowed you to, grow professionally or in your career. So make sure that your answer is also tailored along that line so that you won't answer the question out of context. So take your pen and your paper. And the second, I think the third to the last thing I would say is smile. It's not that deep. Like You don't need to look so cacked up, right? You are not going to a war zone, right? So I'm not saying you should be laughing. No, please don't laugh. Like nothing is funny, but please smile. And if they say something that everybody just smile. So don't be too hard or think that this is just like a war zone or something. It's very like it's an interview. It's a conversation. Like I always tell people. And the second to the
Yeah.
last thing is please don't cram at the entrance, right? I know like sometimes when we want to go for exams, we have this very small paper that you've already put it like a robot in your head. This is how I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it like this. And then at the entrance, you might meet like other scholars who are going in for their interview and everybody is discussing. I always say this like that point where you're waiting for your interview is not the time to even be cramming or looking at any paper. The best you can
Mm-hmm.
do yourself is to be very calm because I
Yep.
believe that you've done all your behind the scenes work before you came for the interview. So when people are making discussions, did you read this? And I want to believe that like it's not like an exam that everybody has access to maybe past questions or something. So nobody will be discussing, did you read about leadership? It doesn't happen like in a typical setting, it doesn't happen. So there's no
Yep.
need to start having conversations that make you feel like you've not read enough, you've not studied enough, and things like that. So it's very important that you do not. The best thing you can do before your interview, once you get into that place, is to relax. Trust me, if you have a bottle of water with you and they allow you to bring it in, take water and like they always say, mind your business. The last thing I'm going to say is don't be robotic, right? I was, when I got into that room and I sat down, I'm like, this is it. This is the avenue to prove that yes, I'm a worthy candidate for this scholarship and I deserve it based on all the things I've written and all the works that I've done in the past years. So I want to believe that if you really did those things, it would be easy for you to talk about it and there's no need to cram numbers, cram
Yep.
what's it called, like cram details and things like that. I know that we did
Mm-hmm.
a project in February that recovered millions of plastics, about 2 million, about 6 million, about 7 million. I'm just saying, like, generally. So, if I was part of the project, truly, I don't think I need to be cramming the numbers if I was really involved, either as a volunteer or maybe as a founder or as a worker in an organization. So, it's very, very important that you wear your confidence, you wear a smile, please. It's not a war zone, and do not see the worst thing you don't want to do to yourself is to be robotic because they can ask you questions that you don't even know where your robots can press start from and you just get lost in the whole answer. So I'm just going to take it back to Larry Shipper. I know that we can divide the Chevening interview into three parts. We
Yep.
have the pre-interview, the during interview, and then the post-interview. So could you please share with us specifically the things that you really did, pre-interview to help you properly prepare for the interview itself?
Okay, thank you very much. I think at this point, I won't be speaking only from my experience. I will speak predominantly from, my lived experience when on the panel. I will speak from what I know about the process, how I've been able to support people across time to be able to win the Chevening Scholarship. And I think historically, that's quite a number right now, right? So I would say if you're on this call, there are five major things, five key elements that can ensure that you stand out, outperform, and outshine your fellow candidates during the interview. And see, there is no gay saying. We are not playing around. I want you to know that if a country has a dedicated number of slots and it's 50 scholars from that country per year, there is every likelihood that they have invited times three that number that year for interviews. So an example would be if the slots of Chevening scholars to come from Kenya this year is 50, there is every tendency that the number of people invited for interview is 150 people. And that means that is a chance of 1 against 3, which is why it is important. And at that point in time, before you go into the interview panel, all of you, number 1 to number 150, are potential scholars. What you have to do to ensure you transition from being just a candidate or applicant to a scholar at the end of the day is very, very definitive and dependent on five major things. And I call them the 5 C's. So here's the Chevening interview. Clap for me now, babe. Yeah. The first one is communication. The second thing is coherence. The third thing is confidence. The fourth thing is critical thinking. And the fifth one is composure. I'm going to take you through how all of these things in one way or the other connects and reflects through your preparation. I mean, your preparedness, which is the first thing that I mentioned, your delivery, which is the second thing, and then the credibility of your candidature. Now, the first thing that I will mention ahead of the Chevening interview is that you need to be prepared to validate your worthiness. And why do I mean that? The equivalence of a Chevening Award in the Nigerian value will be around 40 million naira. That's a huge amount of money to give someone. So what they have done with the Chevening interview process is to design it as a competency-based exercise to ensure that they can carefully screen every applicant of their professional accomplishment and leadership potential as a metric for worthiness. Let me take that again. They are trying to screen the applicants on their professional accomplishments and leadership potential as the criteria or metric of their worthiness. So, like we said, beyond the physical presentation of your candidature, you have the opportunity to reinforce your written application with candid, succinct evidence, which can be achieved by leveraging on mentioning people, timeline, and places, right? So this means that you can mention the names of people, dates, as well as places that you were not able to mention in your essay as a way of concretizing and buttressing your inspiring stories. So the first part I'm trying to talk about in terms of ahead of the interview is the need for you to be prepared. Be prepared to validate your worthiness. Everybody shortlisted for the interview stand a chance. Now, your connecting dot at that point in time during the interview is your ability to prove to the interview panel that you're worthy of the investment. And trust me, adequate preparation is the only thing that can help you to leave that indelible mark. Trust me, one key thing when you're preparing is to ensure that you can fortify your responses and ensure to increase your believability. And what do I mean by that? If I'm on an interview panel and I'm going to interview 12 people in a day, right? I want one of those panel interviewees that is going to say something that is going to stick with me, that is memorable, that is inspiring, right? And you want to be able to make a lasting impression in the mind of your panelists, right? And that is the reason why, if we refer back to the 5 things that I mentioned, I talked about communication, coherence, confidence, composure, and critical thinking. I'm still going to explain all of those 5 points. Now, remember, there's a distinctiveness between composure and confidence, right? Your composure is the calmness of the mind and your calmness in approaching the question that they are asking you, right? And that does not equate to overconfidence, because overconfidence itself is this passive self-assurance. And trust me, it is something that is behavioral to show that you are humble, but at the same time, you're sure of what you're saying, right? So it's important that you prepare. And how do you coordinate that preparation, which is ahead of the interview, right? It's number 1, you need to grow your confidence through effective practice. It is not easy for you to talk 45 minutes across time, expressing points. Can you hear me, guys? You can hear me? Okay. Expressing points, giving fact, figures, and statistics if you have not been able to practice over time. So effective practice is a very key ingredient in growing your confidence. Now, you must grow that confidence inside out. And that's why I used to say, Temi, if you remember, that to win in life, it needs to start from the mental. So if right now you are comparing your essay with the essay of another applicant, you are beginning to shoot yourself in the leg, right? Yeah. Do not do that. You are also a candidate, right? And what you need to do in building your confidence is effective practice. What you need to do is have the details of your essay at heart, right? Your 4 essays. What I'm telling some of the people within my circle right now is just print out those 4 essays. Stretch your leg on the couch, find biscuits and juice, and understand the fundamental basis of those 4 essays to start with, right? Because by growing your mental confidence, it will only happen when you understand the sketch of your expression, right? Which is those essays. Now, to further enable you to grow that confidence, you need to be able to fortify that first 4 essays with the potential supporting questions that can come from it. And trust me, if you go online, you're going to see past possible questions, right? But when you have all of that, you need to be able to build structures around how would you respond to those questions. Don't think I just want to read my essays, master them, or unfortunately cram them, which is something I would not advise, right? And that's why I say practice them. If you are the one who indeed wrote those essays, it becomes a part of you, right? Now, research possible questions, write out your responses, and then practice your presentation. Your presentation is what would enable two things as part of the things that I mentioned. The first one is coherence, and the second thing is composure. You will see that there is a connection between preparedness, growing your composure, because if you have your answers at heart and you already built a structure to which you want to present answers or responses to your potential questions, trust me, you will be able to articulately deliver your responses well and make a case for yourself, which interestingly is the connection between your delivery and the credibility of your candidature, like I mentioned in the beginning. So if you build a structure, write out the responses and practice. But most importantly, set up mock interviews with your parents, with your friends, with your housemates, your colleagues at work, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, anybody. What that enables you to do is, number one, you get feedback. If you are on this call by now, you will see I speak very fast, right? If there is anything that your mock interview will enable you to do, is talk to people who tell you the pitch or the tone of your responses is actually too loud, too fast, right? So you do not only get feedback. Babe, why are you smiling? Keep smiling. It's giving you motivation. Keep smiling. It's okay. Oh yeah. Your Now you are letting me forget what I'm saying now. Okay, good. Oh yeah, sorry. The mock interviews, yes, that's where the mock interviews enable you to get feedback on your responses, on how well you have been able to arrange them sequentially across. How do you introduce the questions, the responses? How do you get to the body? And then how do you conclude? Which are two things that we are still going to talk about, mainly the content of your responses and the structure of your responses and how that synergistically strengthens your answers, right? So that mock interview is really, really very, very important. Now, I said that you need to be able to simulate what the interview panel will look like. And you can do that in two ways. You can either picture yourself before an imaginary four-member panel and then you talking to them. I mean, when we used to do debates and speaking contests, we used to say that just change the face of your audience to your family members, right? And it will be like a conversation, right? So you don't have anything to lose because trust me, even the greatest orators before those kind of panels have the tendency to mess up their lines or forget their script, which is very possible to happen. But if that happens to you, right, you don't have to start all over again. And that's why they say in speaking, any mistake is a heart, right? You turn it into, and then I was going to Belgium. Yes, I'm in Belgium, right? So you may get a line and then you turn it into heart. So as I'm saying, connect with these people and create an opportunity to elaborate on your responses with a firm conviction. That is really important. We are still talking about ahead of the interview, right? So we've mentioned 2 points. Number one, be prepared to validate your worthiness. Number two, grow your confidence through effective practice, which I said you can do through scripting out your responses, building a structure for them, practicing through mock interviews, picturing what the interview panel can look like in your head, or even physically by setting up your friends. Oh yeah, 4 of you, stay in front of me, ask me questions, and then you deliver. I'm not saying you should bully people, but get people who can give you feedback. Now, the third thing that I'm going to mention is increase your knowledge bank and get your facts right. One of the most fundamental things, can the congregation say amen in this chat box, please? The people that are here.
Yes, I can see we're about 69 people on this call.
Oh my God, if you have your friends and family who are going for the interview, they cannot sleep on this, so we can't have 70 people on this call. Come on. We are saying a lot of things that is really important right here.
If you know someone who is your friend who is applying, just send to them. Trust me.
Send to them. Let's get going. Okay, I can see a lot of amen. Good, fantastic. So I
Yeah.
said increase your knowledge bank and get your fact right. It is integral to mention that one thing that I've continually impressed Chevening interview panels over the years is your ability to show your extensive knowledge and understanding of not only the Chevening network, but the Chevening alumni community as well as the United Kingdom. See, there are some questions that enables you to demonstrate that. But even when they do not allow you to demonstrate, ensure you are able to integrate those elements into your responses. You want to show that you know about the Chevening network and not only about the year it was created, the number of alumni you have in your country, but even how to pronounce the scholarship itself. Babe, I've had different versions of Chevening in my life, right? Chevening. I mean, a lot. But
Chevening.
oh yeah, say it. Let's know. Let me even judge if you know how to
No, I
call
was just
scholar.
joking.
Oh yeah,
I feel like people
tell us,
pronounce
tell
it
us.
based on their dialect or
Hey,
based on their
yeah.
mother tongue.
So you
But
can use
I
either
pronounce
Ekiti
it
or
Chevening.
Ife or Ilesha accent to pronounce. Okay. Oh yeah. It's like chi from cheese. Chevening, right? Chevening as in cheese, right? Great. Let's go back to the business, right? So it's key and important that you are able to show how much you have researched, how much you are connected to the system itself. So some of the key things that you can actually build your knowledge on is number one, the UK priority areas in your country. Now, this is an important information to equip yourself with because your interest and your career aspirations as expressed in your essays must align strategically with the foreign policy strategies of the UK in your country. And trust me, it is not an hidden fact, right? You can easily Google online or find out, babe, we just went from 70 to 53. What's happening? Oh, great. Yeah, people went to hit, they're coming back.
The numbers are increasing and decreasing. Just don't worry, just continue. I can
Ah,
see
yes.
it's lagging on YouTube, but at the back end,
Oh, I see.
there are
Fantastic,
people
fantastic.
there.
So increase the knowledge bank about the UK priorities in your country. The Chevening scholarship itself, what year was it established? What is the strength of the alumni network? What are the names and industry of notable alumni of Chevening in your country? What are the numbers of scholars that are selected from your year since inception? What are the names of recent scholars that you have made contact with? Right? Don't mention Gideon Olaniwaju Shepa or Temilade Salami. I mean, it seems it is every year that people mention my name now. And my shoulder pad is high, but it is good if you demonstrate that knowledge as well that you know about the system. UK priority areas, the Chevening scholarship, your course options, ensure you do an extensive research about them. Your university options, right? You can't be saying University of Success and then you mention that Success is in London or is in Leicester. No, you're not going to do that. You must demonstrate those knowledge. And trust me, it happens a lot of time because why the need for an interview itself? In the first place, is because sometimes some people hire people to write essays for them, and then the interview panel is an opportunity for you to be able to show that indeed you wrote your essays. The last thing is you also want to show you know about the United Kingdom. You want to take 1 year off from your country to go to the UK. So, what do you know about the culture, the language, the food, the history, the role of the UK in global politics, and how does all of these things reflect in your responses? It is really, really, really important. So, babe, I'm going to toss it back to you. Those are three things that you need to do ahead of the interview. But let me come back again. 5 key elements to ensure that you can bolster both your preparedness, your delivery, and the credibility of your candidature is improve on your communication, coherence, confidence, critical thinking, and composure. And how all of those 5 things reflect before the interview will be number 1, be prepared to validate your worthiness. Number 2, grow your confidence through effective practice. And number 3, increase your knowledge bank and get your fact right. I will allow you comments before we go into the interview panel itself.
All right, thank you so much, Lara Shipa. That was that was really good. I know that it might sound like a lot of English, but trust me, if you take your time to actually look at these things that he has mentioned, they are like very, very critical. Composure and deepened knowledge. So I'm just going to say this very quickly. Most times when people send me a message about Chevening, they want to get information. I always tell them go to the Chevening website. And I know it sounds very cliche because that's what anybody would tell you. But trust me, I think really need to give it to Chevening. Their website is a home of solid and deepened information. And
Absolutely.
you probably want to ask anybody. Chevening already has given you the basic information that you need, right? Even sometimes to some of the schools that past scholars have attended and where those schools are. And like Larry Shipper also said, you also need to know about the school you are going to. So yes, you want to go and study in a particular school. Maybe you want to study environment development and policy in University of Sussex. Have you checked the course? Do you know about the lecturers? Like you don't need to know the lecturers, but do you at least have one name of the lecturer in mind? Oh, this is the kind of settings I'm looking to join. These are the people I'm
Yep.
meeting. I'm looking to meet and things like that. Larry is
Yep.
still going to touch up on some of those things. Dates, names, very very important. Like very important.
Absolutely.
Those
Yep.
things really helped me during my preparation. And one of the things that I think I really, really need to hit on is that this is not, in fact, when I was preparing for Chevening interview, I had no business with any other scholar. When I say I had no business, I'm not saying there were groups and things like that. But when I say I had no business, like I didn't ask somebody to send me their essay and then I send my own because you've already submitted the essay. So you can't record the essay. So now you are preparing. And to really help your mind not to feel inferior to any other person, the business you have is with your essay, and the first
Yep.
step to make sure that you internalize that essay. I say internalize and not cram, because some of
Calm.
the
Yeah.
questions they ask you, there's no way you want to bring your cramming into it. Trust me, like they will know. I can know when somebody has crammed something and is robotic, and even though you think that yeah, I can rough it, and you don't. This is a game of there are many people and you are trying to fight in to get in. There's no game of I want to rough it in this. So thank you so much, Larry Shipper, for touching on the pre-interview. We'll
Yep.
just go straight to the during interview and the things that
Yeah.
you did, how you talked, how you connected the dots with the
Yep.
questions, and understanding understanding the question. Sorry, guys, understanding the
Yep.
question is so yeah. I'll just give you the floor.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yeah, we're doing great so far. So I think it's important because you see, on that interview day, I mean, maybe it is because of the way I approach interviews. So I'm seeing some questions. Please be rest assured, we will respond to questions when we are done with all of these exchanges that we're doing. One key thing is that an interview, and that is why I think my success rate when it comes to interviews are quite high. I don't joke with my interviews, right? It is important for you to know that before you even get to the interview panel, your interview day is really important. You need to be emotionally, physically, psychologically, spiritually alert with every of your actions. It's important. Number one, you need to sleep well because there is a synchronized function between your mind, your heart, and your brain on the day of your interview. Somebody will be on this call and will say, is it up to that? It is. I mean, it depends on what this scholarship can actually do for your life. I mean, I have people like myself that this scholarship has transformed our life, my life, for the rest of days. I mean, most of the things I do today have been informed by, the significance of the Chevening scholarship, right? So why should you take it serious? It's not just a scholarship like that. It's a lifelong opportunity. And that's the reason, lifetime, I mean to say, lifetime opportunity that you need to really, really take serious. So your timing is important. Two things before we even study what happens on the interview. Let's talk about the D-Day, the timing. It is vital that you are professionally conscious to arrive early at the interview venue and avoid situations, either foreseen or unforeseen circumstances, that may create panic for you before you enter into the interview room. Arriving early
Only
helps
to
you
leave
settle.
Lagos. Yeah.
Exactly. Lagosians, you understand, is important. Arriving early helps you calm your nerves and helps the panel to keep on schedule. I think I'm free to say this. Last year, I was an interviewer. I mean, I was behind, I interviewed people for the scholarship. And there was this individual who came and was sweating heavily. Oh, I'm going too far. During my time in 2017, babe, I know get and kashif. I don't work out from, sorry, it's not only Nigerians on this call.
English.
I'd gone from Onikban, right, to the British High Commission in, I think, Water Carrington without an handkerchief. And I have this very tight suit that I used to wear then, which is where the concept of comfortability and convenience must be your language when it comes to fashion-wise. Convenience and comfortability. I wanted to look all posh and, and then I'm wearing this very tight blue suit and I was sweating. I do not have an handkerchief. During the interview, it's unbelievable that I was actually using my hand to wipe off sweat. Thank God that did not in any way inform or impact my performance or delivery. I mean, I can't imagine sweating, sweating, and at the same time, being like that. So please, calm your nerve, arrive early, help the panel to keep on schedule. You should be in and out of your room within 30 to 45 minutes. That's not standard anyways, but it helps, right? That's the first thing, timing. The second thing that a lot of people do not know, but is also important, is dressing. Let your dressing be informed by comfortability and convenience, but strive for an excellent look. The use of the word excellence in this case is relative, but look professional and calm. When I go for interviews, I used to tell people, there is one dress you used to wear that when you wear it, people used to compliment you and you used to be happy. You need that dress on that day. That should be what you should go along. First is timing. Second is dressing. The third thing on that day is documents. Documents. Amidst all the documents to be taken to your interview, your international passport is the most important. Do not forget that. I'm not saying the photocopy of your passport information page, your passport itself, your passport, you must take it along, right? It's important as it is clearly stated. Other supporting evidences, which is not necessary, however, is your unconditional offers. No pressures at all. No pressures whatsoever for you to go with a conditional offer or unconditional offer. It is not necessary. But if you have it, take it along with you. That is if only you have it. So those three things are fundamental, right? Now, let's get right into it, right? The interview itself. The first thing I need to say would be that maintain your composure and originality, right? And to talk about the interview panel itself, I'm going to divide it into two things: content and structure, right? It's important we take it from that end: content and structure. But let me give you a background knowledge about what the interview typically looks like. The interview panel, three things. I mentioned timing, I mentioned dressing, and I mentioned documents. On that document, I mentioned international passport as the most important thing. Every other thing is relative, right? Your unconditional offers, if you have it, take it along with you. Let me go back to what I'm saying. The interview panel is possibly made up of 3 or 4 individuals: a representative of the British High Commission, a Chevening alumni or alumna in your country, a staff from the UK Visa and Immigration Office, or any other person, right? Upon invitation to your room, remember one fundamental thing: you need to stick to the conventional principles of interviewing, right? If you are ushered into your room, number one, when you enter, do not back your panelist. It's important. See, paying attention to detail is also something that can give you edge. At this point in time, it is a function of 1 point, 2 point, 3 points above your fellow candidate that makes the difference. So you need to pay attention. When you enter into the room, do not back your panelists as you enter. Ensure you open the door, you go in, you close the door facing them. And do not sit down until they ask you to please have a seat, right? When you do that, The person right there are your panelists and they are willing to listen to you. But I will say, as a trick, when we were advertising this webinar, we said the tips and tricks of acing your interview. By the time you get into that room, you are going to locate the Lord temporal and the Lord mental of your Chevening journey, which is your lead panelist. Once you enter, identify that person. That person is critical in your Chevening journey. That person do not have the unanimous decision to say maybe you get the award or not. However, this is the person who is going to put together your points, who can sway the opinion of the other panelists that I think that person has got something different. I think we should ask more questions. I think we can ask him to clarify this, right? And if possible, not if possible, it is possible, maintain eye contact as firmly as possible. I'm not saying be shine your eye. No.
Always. Let me just say,
always maintain eye contact when you're giving your responses. And you can speak slowly, but ensure that you are loud enough to be heard. Don't shout. Slowly, but speak loudly. Not loudly, like loud, yeah? But so that they can hear you, right? It's really important. I also said a cup of water will be placed in front of you. Don't hesitate to drink if you are stressed. Some of my mentees, over time, since 2017, I taught them that you can use drinking of water to buy yourself time, right? You want to think about something quick. You just grab a cup of water, and while you are drinking, while you're drinking, you're already thinking of how to engage. Now it is important that you are watchful of your sitting posture or your body language throughout the interview session, and don't be too anxious to respond to the questions. It is really important. Even though you are mindful of the time, take a brief pause to understand the question, articulate your thoughts, and then reproduce them with sincerity in a logical sequence. Now, I'm going to talk about that logical sequence in a bit, right? Logical sequence. Let me put that down. Now, it is also very important. Do not interrupt any panelist as the case may be, right? Do not argue. I mean, over time, I've seen individuals who would, because a panelist has raised a point and you think they've had you wrongly, there's a room for you to leave them. You don't want to give a very bad impression that you interrupt, you interject people, right? Ensure your words are very polite and assertive, but do not be scared to use your energy. And I'm going to talk about that. It happens a lot of time. I've had experiences whereby you come into a room and the energy and the atmosphere is not charged up to feed into your energy to perform very well. It is your responsibility at that point in time to change the energy in the room. And the only way you can change the energy in the room is to stick to your guiding principle of coming into that place to make a mark and justify why you deserve to win a Chevening scholarship, right? And that is where the credibility of your candidature begins, right? So, babe, I spoke about a logical sequence, and I talked about two things: content and structure. Let me start from the structure, right? There are some key things important as far as structure is concerned. Three things actually, Sorry, I need to write down so that I don't forget. Let's start with the four major questions in terms of the content, the four major questions that are going to be asked. The expectation generally is for you to reproduce the content that is in your essays, right? For you to be able to do that, the first thing you need to know is that you must create memorable opening and closing punchlines. Very critical. You want to speak with your opening statement, generally referred to as your thesis statement, that enables you to build on that to the end of your response. That is why it is possible for you to prepare ahead, that if they are going to ask me a question about leadership, networking, studying the UK, as well as my career plan, This is the lines that I want to start with. Of course, those ones are not written earlier, right? You may have written them in your essays, you may not have written them, but it is important for you to give something that people can remember. Thank you, everybody, for the encouragement. I'm seeing amazing session, insightful session. Thank you very much. It's important. So if they ask me why Chevening, I mean, this is a very popular example I used to say. To start my response, an opening line will be, why not Chevening, right? That itself makes, your panelists to say, okay, bring it on. Why not Chevening, right? And then you have your opening statement, and then you have your concrete examples follow through, right? Now remember, for two of the questions, networking and leadership, it is fundamentally important that you use a framework it's very popular when it comes to interview sections, and that is your task, action, your results. We call it STAR framework, yeah? Your situation, your task, your action, and your result. But I also added something, which is HELL, STAR HELL. If you are going to build your concrete examples into the leadership and the networking question that they're going to ask you, ensure you use the STAR framework. You talk about a situation, the task, the action, the result, but most importantly, add the HELL, which is the lesson. We are still talking about, the content of your responses. The first thing I talked about would be have concrete examples, but let that concrete example be formed around the STAR L framework. Talk about a situation, a task, action, result, and then lesson. I think it is important for me to mention that one or two concrete examples is better than you rambling about. And I'm going to give you an example of a STAR, response. Hi, Gideon. Can you tell us about a time? Okay, I think I have a potential question here that I can talk about, the content. Chevening is looking for individuals who will be future leaders or influencers in their own countries. Explain how you meet this requirement using clear examples of your own leadership and influencing skills to support the answer. My typical response, I take a pause. I remember they say future leaders or influencers. Explain how I meet the requirements using clear examples of my own leadership or influencing skills. Remember, leadership or influencing skills. I would say, since 2019, at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, access to education has been a challenge for millions of children across the world. That's a punchline, right? The need to provide digital learning opportunities for children situation became overemphasized. Situation. As an educational development practitioner, now I'm transitioning into the task. I was able to leverage support. Leverage support begins to talk about your ability to influence or mobilize, right? I was able to form a group of 1 million volunteers. Yeah, a group of 1 million volunteers comprising of, content developers, software engineers to develop. Now you're going to action, situation, task, action to develop Nigeria first mobile learning adaptive solution called Digilent. Mind you, this is a substantive example. There is something called Digilent built by myself and my organization during COVID. So I have taken the situation, talked about the task, the action. As a result of this platform, right? More than 50,000 Nigerian students were able to research online using our solution. They were able to, treat past questions, access the Nigerian educational curriculum. And at the end of it, remember, you can add tangibility to your responses by leveraging on facts, figures, and statistics. By mobilizing support up to $150,000 funding from organizations like Bill and Melinda Gates, One Young World, Queen's Commonwealth Trust, 50,000 students were able to pass their exam with more than 97% success rate. That's a statistic. And it's important because it enables or strengthens the credibility of your story. Now, you have justified the STAR framework. But remember, you are on this call today Remember that I said we added L. The L is the lesson. Even though this solution was critical, it showed me that having leaders with the requisite skills and academic competence will enable us to build something great that Nigeria can leverage on. That is your lesson. But remember, your closing statement when you are done, every of your responses must come back to you emphasizing on the significance of the Chevening interview to your journey. Every, remember that, right? Every. With my leadership example that I just gave, it convinces me that if I have access to the kind of opportunities within the Chevening community, I will be able to do better, which underscore why I've gotten to this stage. And I do look forward to becoming a Chevening scholar. Let them know what's my goal. Let them know that it is really, really important for you.
I use that line, like, I won't say a lot, but I really want to show them that I need to get this thing so I can do this thing. And I look forward to being a Chevening scholar. And it just felt like I was already in the UK for me, honestly.
Yes, now you are learning from the best. So why not? Yeah. What's my goal? Okay, let's move forward. I mean, so saying that is important. And then it is critical that you use another thing called signposting, right? Signposting. So what does signposting means? You are able to take your audience along from the beginning if you give some sort of a flag of the number of things you will be mentioning and in what order, right? And a good example of where you are able to do that is when you are talking about, let's say, the universities, right? I have selected 3 universities, and there are 3 major reasons why I've selected each of those 3 universities. By saying 3, your panel is anticipating that you are going to mention 3 things. But if you just go into it without structurally signposting, then they cannot follow your trend of thought or your flow of expressions. So it is really important that you leverage so well on signposting, right? And you can also use signposting also for your career plan, which to me is the most important response that you can give. The most important question of your whole interview, according to me. The question, what is your career plan, is the most important to me. And I'm going to justify that, right? Thanks for the feedback, guys. Thank you very much. We're doing well so far. Sorry, I need to wet my throat.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, awesome. So let's get it going. It is important for you to know that the questions can come in any order. So don't think that leadership will come, networking will come, and then studying the UK, and then your career plan. It might not be like that. They might alternate it. So you must be ready to respond in any direction, right? We're almost getting to the end so that we can take questions. But before then, we're going to bring on our special guests. A special guest. Yeah, I got that. So you can reach out to him, Temilade. Yeah, just tell him in 10 minutes. Awesome. So
Great.
as I was, explaining the content and then the structure. So let me swap from the content and go to the structure right now. When you talk about the leadership, it's expected that your question would have, or your response will be partitioned into 4 parts, right? You're going to open your response, right? You're going to sandwich that with 2 examples, and then you're going to close, right? For your networking, you also know that you're going to open your response, you're going to sandwich 2 examples, and then you're going to close it. For your study in the UK, I used to tell people that question in itself, you are to justify why you've selected the 3 universities you've selected in your application. It is important that you talk about each, at least 3 reasons for each of the choices. So if you put everything together, right, you can have altogether 9 reasons why you've selected all of your universities. So you should be able to take them through 3 reasons for University A, 3 reasons for University B, 3 reasons for University C. That's important. And then the last one, like I used to say, which is to me the most important of all, is your career plan. So I tell people there are ways you can do that. You can take it in talking about your plan. Immediately you return back to Nigeria, your 3 years plan, your 5 years plan, and then your 10 years plan, right? Or you can talk about your plan upon return, your
Mm-hmm.
5 years plan, your 10 years plan, and your long term,
Yeah.
right? Let it, you can space it that way. The first one would be upon return, 3 years plan, 5 years plan, 10 years plan, upon return, 5 years plan, 10 years plan, and then long term. And there's a way to actually approach that response. It's really important that you mention that upon return to Nigeria because a key component, a key requirement of the Chevening interview itself or the Chevening Scholarship Award itself is that upon expiration of your scholarship tenure, you return back to your home country. So you want to mention that, right? You want to transition to say that after 3 years upon return, right? This is what I want to do, in what capacity, and what you'll be doing. So let me give you a typical one. 3 years upon return. Must your reasons be three? Well, it depends on what you've written. Okay, don't let me address that for now.
Yeah.
Can how can I close this comment section?
Don't worry, you don't
Okay.
need to say. Just
But I'm
go on. I
seeing
will
it.
stop.
I'm seeing it. It's popping up. It's confusing me. Don't worry.
Just
I got
go
it.
on.
I got it. Yeah, no problem. Is you can talk about after 3 years, I plan to join the Association of Nigerian Education Practitioners as the program specialist. In this capacity, I plan to do this. I plan to design and implement, innovative policies that will ensure that we can deliver on this. I believe that the cause social justice and humanity for educational development from the University of Success will enable me to understand how to develop policy briefs that will enable me to excel in this position. Then you
Yeah.
move on to the next one that after 5 years, I anticipate or plan to progress in my career to becoming the chief of party for USAID education section at the UN Secretariat or UNHQ in New York. Now, I used to call caution here. It is important that you sound reasonable. I mean, you've already submitted and you already have what you said. So you can't change that. The only thing you can build relevance into that question. I mean, over time, there's always been uh, a very debatable context to all of the things that you've put in your career plan. Some people used to ask, I mean, on the panel, what is the tendency that you will go on to achieve all of these things that you've mentioned? Right? It is now dependent on you to leverage on a number of opportunities to mention that, okay, for example, I belong to a community that gives access to this kind of job opportunity, or I'm going to, acquire a professional certification that can enable me to get into this kind of work position. And then, that serves like a perfect example to show that not only are your career plans ambitious, they're actually realistic because you need to, to be able to show that. That's important. So I have one last thing to talk about, but I think it will be good. Can we have a guest now? Okay, fantastic. Guest speaker. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hi
It is a
everyone.
good honor
So
to be here.
I think I need to give pre yeah. So
Giddy, giddy,
welcome
giddy, giddy.
Prince
Awesome.
Louis Adekola. And
Uh-huh.
interestingly, we all attended Sussex, but I'm like the current, they are like my ogas and my
Mhm.
alum members for
Yep.
me like years ago or 3 years, 2 years ago. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so glad to really have them on this call. And Louis will
Mhm.
just be sharing, his own experience post interview. Because sometimes you might even get chevening, but I know people who have lost chevening based on the fact that they couldn't get admission into schools or the school
Yep.
didn't respond to them on time. So it's very important that just that one thing will not now spoil all your preparation of 1 year. So I'll just give the floor to Louis and we'll just after Louis we'll take question and answer session. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Let me start by saying it is a great honor to be here and I've listened from the beginning as though I'm doing the interview all over again. and it has been exciting. Always a pleasure to listen to both of you. And again, I need to say that it's a great privilege to be here, just sharing the spotlight with current University of Sussex students and alum and my very dear friends. Um, Apart from the fact that we're all Chevening scholars and alum, we're all from the same university, and we are international student ambassador of the same university while studying. That's
Very
also
true.
important to know, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, yes, so great stuff. My experience, just a little thing. I can't, I won't take so much of your time. So I'll just go straight to one or two things that I think is important and just really put into perspective what you said before. And I wrote down listen with your ears and with your eyes. When you are
Mm,
in the interview, listen with your ears and with your eyes because
mm,
the environment that you are, look, you've made it to this stage, and I'm looking at the list of people commenting, and I can tell you a number of these guys are going to get the Chevening scholarship, and I'm already excited about that. You know, I I I feel that you need to pay attention to the environment. The panelists, the four of them or the three of them, however it is, they are not there to judge you out. They are there to confirm your spot for you. And you are the one that will tell them that I need this spot, I deserve this spot, I have worked for it, now I'm coming to get it. So when you're responding, you need to understand that some person will be there giving you hint potentially. I mean, they won't say anything. But they want to hear you say what you've said you are doing. So if you are not saying it, feel the environment, know how to then answer the questions that you've not answered because they will give you the opportunity to sell yourself to bring everything to fore. So without wasting any more time, you've said something about taking the time pauses to think. When you are asked a question, you can just say, "Oh, and that's a very interesting question," and then you sit. May I like to adjust my seat when I'm answering? Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I am when you do that, number one,
uh-huh.
you're showing that confidence. Number two, you're taking time to think. Number three, you're putting your thoughts in layers, like the star
Yes.
approach and all that Gideon has talked about. So
Yeah.
that's really key. So take those pauses, but when you think fast because they are not there to listen to you to see you adjust it. You know, anyway, now last year, because I work in the international education consulting space, and I've been in this industry for about a decade. Some people are beginning to know me because now I'm the regional officer for the University of Sussex, but I've been in the industry starting as a student counselor like 10 years ago. So but last year, something happened. Someone had gotten to the interview stage, and I can't remember. Maybe I'd even gotten the initial. No. I think it was the invitation to interview, but just at the point where the person needed to present their offer letters, the person had applied to an institution, and the person had just had options and listed. Maybe the person didn't think that he or she was going to get, sorry, I already said he, was going to get the Chevening, but got the interview invitation and no offers yet. Sometimes you have applied to institutions and institutions take time to respond. But it is important for us to let you know some of these things. I'm just sharing my own understanding of the sector with you.
Yeah.
You are applying from institutions that has delays. Let them not delay you and take away your dreams.
Yep.
Wise when you are choosing. See, so many people would come and want to take away your dream. For me,
Mm.
it was almost my first referee that was going to take away my dream, but God in heaven did not allow him. Back to what I was saying. Um, when choosing institutions, choose wisely. The first thing that I would say is that many people don't know that the scholarship is contributory. So institutions also contribute a certain percentage to your being in that university and being a scholar. I would profile the university that we are all from because that's the one that I know. The University of Sussex, for example, is top three Sussex, Chevening scholars. Not only because in the entire scheme, outside
Yeah.
of London, we are number one. The University of
Imagine.
Sussex is number one, taking the highest number, meaning the university has the capacity to take many
Students.
students.
Yeah.
Another thing is that because of the kind of dynamics of courses that we have, from
Mm.
law to social sciences to business to engineering to what we are very known for, international development studies. I was going to say international education and development that myself and Gideon studied, but
I know.
we're development. But so our university is really producing leaders, preparing and really getting. I mean, look at all of us here. So what I would say, number one, is that we are here to support. I am one of the things I have taken as a mission is to consistently support Chevening scholars.
Yeah.
If you have applied to the University of Sussex and you are currently expecting your offer, send me an email. I'm going to drop my email in the chat box. Send me an email. I'm going to chase up on your offer, and you're going to get your offer as soon as possible so that you can have it ready, have your unconditional offer to your interview. That's very important because it shows that when you go into the interview, I went to the interview with my unconditional offers, the three of them. Do you understand? I think it's because I work in the sector. I know how
Yeah,
these
of
things work.
course.
So,
Hmm.
but if you have applied to University of Sussex and you need an offer, send me an email. If you have gotten your offer, get in touch with me as well, and I'm going to provide all the support that you need for you. Then,
Mm.
if you have applied to institutions and you are still expecting offers, I don't have control over those institutions.
Yeah.
If you need to send a new application to, for example, to the University of Sussex, get in touch as well, and we're going to provide support. I'm going to also tell you that on this call, my senior international officer from the University of Sussex is here.
It's here.
I can see,
So,
we are
Louis,
consistently
let them know
working.
that this session that we are doing is bonus. So, as per success family, I mean, it's just important.
Yes,
Yeah. Sorry,
yes,
sorry, Liu. I think one question that might be going through the mind of people on call, I see 63 people, is that why is this important? So, a very short story. I know of a scholar, 2 years back to back, this individual was so hell bent on going to Cambridge, Oxford, and LSE. The person was conditionally selected for Chevening 2 years back to back, but could not get an offer because of the adamancy. I am not saying you should not, aspire to actually go to some universities, right?
yeah,
It's normal. But at this point in time, if you see that some of those universities are slowing up and the deadline to submit your offers, even if it is not before the interviews, is June 15th or so, if I'm very, very correct. It's important that you swap up to some institutions that deliver the same value, right, in terms of the subject that you want to study. I don't know what is available out there that we don't offer at Success, right? International development, the first in the world for 3 years back to back. The first,
5 years.
Harvard is number 2. 5 years now, imagine, right? International
Yeah,
education and development. I've gone on to do amazing stuff with that degree
yeah,
from the University of Sussex. Temi Lade Onkoye is studying environment, policy, and development. She just won £3,000 as a climate leader prize. Talk about an institution that supports you to get
yeah.
things done. I mean,
Done.
the energy is.
I was the social impact prize winner, a second prize winner for when I was studying at
Wow.
Sussex, and
You
I
should share
competed.
your money with
Yeah,
us. So.
okay.
Go
I,
on.
I
I just wanted to
competed
drop
in the
that.
Startup
Yeah.
Sussex. Yeah, I competed in the Startup Sussex prize, and even though I was coming from the education this thing, I still came second in social impact prize. The support system is always there. People know about the University of Sussex, and it is very important that we let you know why. We're not just noisemakers. We are a university that supports your dreams, that is concerned about what you want to do. And I am here. I'm a Chevening scholar. I'm a University of Sussex graduate. I am holding this position, and I'm going to use it as best as possible to support your dreams. Because at the end of the day, the reason why we're having this call, the reason why these two amazing individuals has put this together and invited me as a special guest is so we can support you in making your dream a reality. So let's do that together. My experience while you're studying, when we can do a session after about life in the UK and all of that, but right now, Sussex, the Chevening interview it's okay to be nervous. They know that you will come as a nervous individual. Don't fight too hard, because when you're fighting to be your nervosity or your nerves too hard, that's when you become mechanical. And you don't want to go to your interview and be mechanical and plastic, because you have rehearsed everything and so be calm, take it easy, go in and sell yourself. If things have changed between the essays that you wrote and the interview that you're doing, remember to mention it. Don't just stay stuck on what you've submitted months ago. I won the World Youth Prize, World Youth Award between my essays and my and my interview. I didn't start off without one. But when it was the time to highlight it, it was there. It was right there for me to use. Okay,
Correct.
so that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you very much, Louis. Louis, thank you very much. Yeah, go
So
on.
say that, Louis, could you please share that email with me, and then
Yes.
I will just I will drop it while we are taking Q&A. But very quickly,
I already have some
honest.
people that already have unconditional offers. Great stuff.
Oh, great.
Welcome, Jose. Welcome to the house. I'm going to share the email with you now. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
thank you very much. So one thing, thank you so much, Lee. We really appreciate you. I need to point that if there is anybody on call who indeed has their interview still far off and still believe that they need support, they want to consider University of Success, because we need to mention that they give you room when you go to the interview. That do you want to change your choices, right? And you want to go for a new choice. This is us saying that it is possible for you to change your universities, but most importantly, or most significantly, as we are concerned, we would not mind if you attend a whole university. You understand what I mean? And then we have, our West African ambassador as an officer here who can facilitate that. So if there is anybody, Temi is going to drop the email. You can reach out via that email, and trust me, your offer is coming in, and you can take it to your interview. Louis, we really appreciate you. We really appreciate you. Yeah. All right. So before we go to Q&A, bye. Thank you, Louis. Before we go to Q&A, I have something to share real quick, right? Can I go on?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few things, but maybe when you're done, so that we can,
good.
because of time,
we can wrap up and go to the interviews, to the Q&A. I think it's important for me to mention this, right? That there is a certain degree of the quality of the response you give that informs your performance and delivery, that can ensure that you can max out the points for your interview, right? For the questions that they will ask you during your interview. Under the career plan question, which is usually Chevening is looking for individuals who have a clear post-study career plan. They will want you to outline immediate plans upon return, or your long-term plans. You may want to consider how the UK government is doing, or what the UK government is doing in your country. Now, to respond to this kind of question and have a very quality response, right? It is important that you identify, your significant career goals. You need to outline the professional steps that you want to take in your career trajectory, and you have a clear explanation of how that experience as a Chevening scholar will benefit your own country or your chosen field. So have a clear post-study plan in the short term, have a clear post-study plan in the long term. Mention how you will leverage your Chevening experiences. Mention how you will leverage the combination of both your academic and employment experiences. And also signpost or flag up how the work of the UK in your country can be linked to your career, which somehow shows how you want to relate what you learn in the UK into the work of the UK in Nigeria, as well as the contribution you will make locally. That's for the career plan. Let's go to study in the UK. To give a quality response for that, right, is important. The question will say, outline why you have selected your choosing 3 university choices and explain how they relate to your previous academic or professional experience and your plans for the future. Now, a typical quality response would demonstrate an outstanding rationale for studying in the UK, right? And there's a different way you can do this. You can demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the course. You can make mention of relevant course modules for each of the course that you've selected, which I want to believe is what you've done in your essay. You can talk about, professors at the institution that you would like to work with. I mean, a lot of people won't forget, those who have watched my video on YouTube, they remember Professor Kwame Ayempong. I mean, that's a very good example. How you connect with the course on a long term, and some things that are really important about the university that you selected, right? Now let's go to the leadership and influencing. A typical quality response for that, right, will be that you talk about the recognition of the achievements you have from your professional career. There is a clear result of how you are able to deliver on those accomplishments based on some very definitive qualities or skills that you have, right? You must also show an evidence of determination of trying to do something great for yourself through that platform of impact, right? That's really important to ensure you have a very strong, response for that. The last one will be the networking. A typical quality response would number one will show an evidence of an extensive network, right? If you belong to a network that relates to your work. I mean, for example, I used to be a member of the Global Shippers community. I belong to the Dear World, education framework, and quite a number of that. You need to be able to provide a clear and well articulate example from the network through which you can potentially, leverage to improve the Chevening network, right? You need to demonstrate that, and you can talk about how you have used your skills in networking to achieve a positive change. How are you able to connect with someone, and that connection enable you to get social impact done, right? You must also be able to talk about how you build your professional network, how you have acted upon opportunities presented by these professional networks. You can also talk how you have leveraged this network to be able to impact, influence, or lead others. You also need to be able to mention innovative examples of engagement. That, in a way, are some of the major examples that can enable you to give quality responses, right, across all of the 4 questions. I think right about now, we can rest our case and bring forward the questions that we have.
Okay, thank you so much everyone for staying this far. And I really do not think that it's too far, because it's just 1 hour, 30 minutes, and it's worth it for an interview that can literally determine what goes on, in your life in the next 1 year. So I think I need to quickly say something before we go to Q&A. I can see some questions which I'm going to highlight. And these are just, basic tips that, we might not have mentioned or talked about. So I need to say this. Please do not lie with numbers. And I know
Yep.
that this is something that people don't pay attention to. Maybe you
Yep.
reached out to 20. I might need to mute you because of your book.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. So you reached out to maybe 1,000 people, and then at your interview you say I've reached 20,000 people. Let me tell you, like, the people sitting in front of you are people who have gone ahead, people who have worked with projects at the British Council. So there's no way you want to even lie to them, because during the time they were reading your essay, they've probably done a lot of background check. So you don't want to say you've reached 1 million people and in reality you've only reached 1,000 people, right? So for me, I always say that it's always the impact. When I was doing my interview, I talked about numbers. I didn't lie about the numbers, but I talked about how much impact those numbers actually got, rather than saying, I reached out to many people and there was nothing that happened in the end. Secondly, I would like to say that if anything has changed, also add it. Maybe by the time you were waiting, that time you're waiting for your interview, you got into a particular, maybe fellowship for social impact and things like that. Please add it. It was not in your application, but it's okay to talk about it. I always say it's a subtle bragging, avenue. But I'm not saying it should be like this, but don't be humble about your achievements. That's not even the time to be humble about what you've done. And I need to say something about the study in the UK. When they ask you about the study in the UK, see, Chevening doesn't just want you to go into the UK and just be facing your book, academics, like it's not like they expect anybody to just live their lives on book for a whole year. So they want to know if there are other things that you plan to do, because trust me, academic rigor is serious. So when they ask me such a question like, oh, like what are the things that I'm looking forward to, I told them, because I work in the environmental, sustainability space, I told them I wanted to attend COP26, which happened in Glasgow and is in the United Kingdom. And I said I looked forward to meeting. In fact, I put names that I wanted to meet, this and that. And if anybody knows me personally, you know that almost all the things that I wrote in my essays, I actually have done. In fact, more than those things, I've attended COP, met people, formed relationship and network. So also talk about what's it called? Events that you're going to attend, even as basic as art exhibitions that you're looking forward to, viewing, or places you want to go, places of leisure. So there's no need to just say, I'll go and read my book, I want to have distinction. They know you want to have distinction, but please put other things that are not, academic. I think the last thing that I'm going to also talk about is that let me just say this, because there might be those crop of people. When I first applied for Chevening, I did not get it. So many factors played, right? And there was one thing that happened that I think I need to say. And when they asked me, in my application, I talked about the fact that I wanted to become the Minister of Environment in, I wanted to, let me unmute Larry. I wanted to become the Minister of Environment in 5 years. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I and then the first question the person asked me on the panel was, how? And
Yes.
I lost track literally, because in a logical sense, right, that can just happen in a blink of an eye. There are stages
Yeah.
to it. So I know you're ambitious, but let your words be believable. And the
Yeah.
second time I applied, I told them that I wanted to serve in this organization. And then for my 5 years, I moved to a higher organization. Then 10 years, in fact, I did not tell them I want to become Minister of Environment. I just told them that I would be working in an, maybe international organization that had a chapter in
Yeah.
Nigeria. So that way, it's already, even if I don't tell them, that's already setting me up for such position. But there's no need, because if you say you want to become this one, they will ask you. And all your career plan, there needs to be some way you are linking it to the people you are looking to meet. For example, I mentioned one of my lecturers, and let me just say this lastly. The lecturers in my department, there are people that on a normal day, like you will see them online, you'll be like, oh my God, I need to meet these people. And these are people that teach me in class. Like you sit down with them, professors. So I mentioned their names and I said, oh, they work with this organization. And through this professor, I will be able to network and get into this organization. So names, numbers, dates, all those things are very important. And don't just say, I want to become this one. Tell them how you plan to talk to somebody in your school that you're going to, just be original. You don't need to lie about, they can discover if you're lying. So we'll just take, some of the questions that we had. And
Hold on,
then
please.
Larry.
Before you take questions, I think I need to mention, as regards what you said, or around the positions. Yeah, I mean, it is really important, and I'm saying this because the first one you said was, don't lie about the numbers, right? It is important. If you're on this call today, it is really important that you do not over amplify the
Yeah.
severity or the depth of the impact you claim that you've made. And I'll give an instance. When I was on the panel last year, atypically, right? Atypically, they send your essays to those who will be on your panel weeks ahead. And it is our responsibility to read those essays, right? In one way or the other. I mean, that was last year, right? And one of the things, I've worked between the intersection of education and environment. And there's a particular candidate who claims to work within the environment space, relatively unknown, and I've made some very audacious and ridiculous claims, right? And in my position as a panelist, I just have to research, and I saw that by and large, or lo and behold, what he is claiming are things that are not correct, right? And that in a way had an impact on his performance, because you cannot lie your way to the top, right? People who are in this process, as well as yourself, are people who have worked hard to get to this stage. And that is why I do tell people, Chevening is not a do or die affair. It is an opportunity for you to acquire the requisite skills needed for you to grow your work. So if you are still in the growth business, it is not a must for you to be a Chevening scholar in the immediate. And no offense about that. If you're going to beat me, you're welcome. But at the same time, it's important for you to know that not everybody will win a Chevening scholarship. It's about your proven track record. If you are still growing, if you are still building, continue to build. Do not think that you will dub your way to the top. It's not going to happen, right? So the first question, is that it?
So yeah, I think that we'll just answer all these questions briefly
Yeah.
because we're running out
Yes.
of time. But I will
Let's
make
do
sure
it.
that we get to all the questions. So yeah, Larry, you can have the floor on this one.
Can I add an example in my career plan that I did not mention in my essay? Yes, you can, right? You can. One thing that Tammy said that I think I want to counter, sorry, darling, is the fact that you may be vague about it. No, you don't have to be vague about it. Let me make you understand. Chevening pride itself as a community of future leaders, opinion formers, policy influencers across the world. Right now, 4 presidents across the world are Chevening scholars. The community, which is 50,000 strong member community, has a lot of prominent individuals. What you need to ensure is to build realism, right, into your ambition. And what do I mean by that? You don't have to talk about being a minister of education. Just ensure that you articulate that local or global position of influence that correlate with your professional development trajectory. I work in the education space. A potential position of authority or influence is becoming a director of education at the Federal Ministry of Education. That is easier, right? And that can be my long-term plan. That's in about 20, 25 years. That's realistic. I can't say I want to become a director of curriculum development for my 3 years plan. I mean, that's not doable. So it is important that you space out, those claims that you are making in such a way that it aligns to that growth that you're going to take. So yes, you can add an example, but ensure it is in your field. You can mention that position of influence, what you will be doing in that capacity, and how the degree you are going to earn from the UK or the Chevening community itself enables you to deliver in that position. Let's go with.
Thank you so much. So, Anointed Riches said, we're mentioning that one is awarded in Mandela Washington Fellowship 2022. Wow, that's recent. Negatively affect one's chances at the interview. So, I don't know. They are definitely going to ask you if you, maybe some people, some of the panels, I don't know. Let Larry just answer that so I don't say
Well,
the wrong.
okay, so this is the way I will approach this question. The Mandela Washington Fellowship 2022, as far as I know, might be tenable next year. I want to believe so, right? Because the fellows for this year, I think they've done their online stuff. For 2021, I've done their online stuff this year. Or regardless, when you are in the UK, right? When you are in the UK, it doesn't mean you cannot travel to honor opportunities like this. For what I know, you spend 6 weeks in the US for your Mandela Washington Fellowship. There is a condition as a Chevening scholar that you only have 30 days of travel across your entire Chevening year while studying in the UK. There might be a conflict of performance, right? As far as that is concerned. So this response, I don't think it can negatively affect you, but in one way or the other, it is going to affect your presence in the UK when you are studying and you are supposed to go and fulfill the residential component of your Mandela Washington Fellowship. Let's go, Ben.
Okay, so is it compulsory to write IELTS or any other proficiency English test? So let me just say this, maybe if Larry has something to add. So Larry was he's a scholar and he's a Chevening scholar, but he graduated like, let me say 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I'm just giving an example. And then I'm currently a Chevening scholar in Sussex. Every year, like, different requirements changes on the Chevening website, right? Maybe there's a particular year where IELTS was not required as a Chevening requirement. But please do well to check the school you're applying to and the course you're applying to know if they want IELTS. Even if, let me assume, that Chevening doesn't ask you for IELTS, please check the schools you're applying to if they require you to write an English proficiency test. I don't know if Larry has anything to add to it. Yeah,
Nope.
so Chevening website is your best option to know if you need IELTS for Chevening, but for your schools, depending on your course and requirements, please do check your school website or send a mail to your school. We might not be able to give valid answers to that for now. Um, so yeah, let me spotlight this. Do we need to come with evidence of things or activities we have done to prove leadership or networking?
Nope.
No.
No, you don't have to, right? And I think over time, if you do anything like this, you do not. So, sorry, babe. Let me chip that in for the last question. For example, you don't require high heads to go to University of Sussex. For example, I mean, I just
Yeah.
wanted to buttress, yeah, the point you were mentioning. Currently, IELTS is being prescribed for Chevening itself. You don't need IELTS for Chevening, and some universities also do not require you to do a language proficiency test. And University of Sussex is an example. Now, back to this
So,
question. You are not expected to bring any material evidence of your impact, right? Your essay have done the justice, and what you should do as an individual would be to go forth to buttress, your candidature with explanations. Just build credibility, magnitude, flow, and direction into the responses that you would, talk about your leadership. That is enough. You just ensure that you build the evidence case in such a way that it shows that you're telling the truth, right? By
yeah,
mentioning people, places, and time, it allows you to build tangibility of magnitude into the credibility of your response. Next.
great. Yeah, I think that works. So must your reasons for choosing each school be three? So let me just quickly say this generally. There are no, cut out rules. These are things that we did that worked for us. But I want to believe that if you are giving examples, let it be substantial. You know something like somebody can give you two examples and is very, very solid. And some people can
Yep.
give 10 examples and is nothing. So it
Yep.
depends on how well you are able to buttress your examples. But on based on personal experience, 2 to 3 examples,
Work
works.
fine. And the kind of things you can mention about these universities will be number one, the ranking of the university, the
Yeah.
ranking of the courses, right?
Mhm.
A notable center at such an institution. And I'll give an example. You can mention the fact that University of Sussex as the Institute of Development Study is an attraction for you. That's a reason. You can also talk about the proximity or the location of the university. I've seen some people who mention the fact that Manchester, right? Manchester, the city of Manchester, has the Old Trafford Stadium and is home to two of the world's largest football clubs, which is Manchester City and Manchester United. And because of that, you pick the university because they are not just expecting you to come and study. You also want to immerse yourself into the cultural beauty or the cultural advantages of the United Kingdom. So that can be another example. You can also talk about, the student community, right, at that institution. You can also talk about, the location of the university itself. The fact that it's in London, the fact that there are libraries, there are, museums around that can aid, you can also talk about a component of the course. Perhaps your course has a placement requirement that allows you to go spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks with an institution. You can find that attractive, right? You can also mention the modules. Ensure that all of your reasons, at least you talk about a module for each of the university, right? The module equality in the global south and development from the course international education and development at Sussex. Ensure that each of your options, you talk about at least one module for each of them. Next.
Yeah, you're very right. So let me just quickly add to that for example, like Sussex, I remember very well that I mentioned about a module because I studied all my modules very well. I checked them. And then one of the things I also mentioned, which was like the high point, one of the major reasons why a lot of people also come to Sussex beyond the ranking. If you're looking for the university that has like a very strong, society, University of Sussex is very big on society, and the Nigerian society and African society is always active, very supportive. And that was very important for me because I was coming to the UK where I didn't know anybody and I needed, people that looked like me that can understand my struggles. So that was it for me. I also mentioned it. So it's okay. You don't need to be mentioning too many academics. They want to, get like a robust feel of what you think about where you are going to study. So
Yep.
I'm just going to spotlight sorry, two other questions. I'm scrolling down. So how can one modify his career plan in terms of positions is stated that are not realistic within the time frame stated? I think this question came based on what I said about, my experience with my former interview and then my new interview. But there's a way you can work around this. So I'll allow Larry Shipa take that.
Okay. You can modify actually. What the central purpose of that question is to be able to identify that indeed you have a clear cut understanding of the direction you want to follow post study, either short term or long term. That's what they need. The only thing that enables you to demonstrate that sense of direction and clarity of purpose is that you using very concrete examples, right? So you can modify by ensuring number one, you are consistent about your field. You can't, it's not possible you want to go study environment policy and development and you're talking about that you want to become the head of product marketing for a fintech organization or a fintech institution. That would not work. So what I'm saying is you can say that you want to become a senior programs manager for an environmental institution, and then in that capacity you will do ABC, and you are able to do that ABC because of the course that you're going to study that allows you to learn ABC. That transition and the connection between the course you would study, right? The course you will study, as well as the positions you're aspiring for, is very important to justifiably connect the essence of the Chevening Award to the sporadic growth of your career plans or your career, aspirations. So I hope you're able to answer that.
Yeah. So with time, I'm just going to be dropping in the comment section. I'll drop the email and I'll also drop it on the screen as he's answering the question. So please note it down. So I think we have 3 more questions to go after this one. What should be contained in Tell Me
Content.
About Yourself? This is Larry, please do this. Is your
This question is the best question I used to like to respond to, because this question, trust me, can make or mar your entire interview experience. And that is the reason that you can change the energy of the room or inform the projection or the progression of your interview session by answering this question well. So the question is, how would you answer this question well? There are 3 things you need to demonstrate responding to the Tell Me About Yourself question. The first thing would be passion. The other thing would be impact. The last thing would be vision. Let me take that again. Vision, passion, and impact, right? So how do you demonstrate that in the response? Number 1, you want to be able to mention who you are by your name. And don't go and be saying, my names are Comrade Adebiyi, Adeduntan, or no, right? Ensure you stick to the name in your application, right? The name in your application, talk about your position or your capacity. Then talk about your previous experiences and bring in some very notable accomplishments in your previous experiences. Then you can go ahead to talk about some awards or recognition that you've been able to garner, right, across your professional development experience, right? And ensure that you are able to finalize that on a very good note, right? And I think it will be good for me to give some sort of an example of how you should typically respond. So if they ask me right now, tell us about yourself, right? I just want to respond to that using my own typical example or response. Yeah, I would say the following. My name is Olanrewaju Gideon, and I'm a quality education advocate with over 4 years experience in the design and implementation of educational development projects. Follow. I graduated from Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Ogbomoso in 2014 with a second-class upper degree in biochemistry. That was the course I studied. But remember, I have applied to study international education and development. The Tell Us About Yourself helps you to explain, right, that transition. But now I'm going back to the Tell Us About Yourself content I'm reading. But the different challenges I experienced while growing up in a rural community with limited learning opportunity um, motivated a shift in my career to being an educational development practitioner. I have spent the last 4 years. Now you are trying to demonstrate impact. I have spent the last 4 years developing my skills through resource mobilization, policy advocacy, while creating innovative solutions to address different educational challenges. That's impact. Now, note the next line. I am passionate about human capital development and quality education, most especially access to equal educational opportunities for every child. Now, let's talk about vision. To concretize my commitment to this cause, I funded Area High in 2014 with the aim of improving access and quality of education available to poor and vulnerable children in rural communities across Nigeria. I am proud to mention that the organization has directly impacted over 6,000 children in 8 schools across 4 communities in southwestern Nigeria. However, I currently manage communications and stakeholder engagement for Teach for Nigeria, a non-governmental organization committed to ending educational inequity across Nigerian income communities. The last few lines that I mentioned are evidences of my professional engagement in my choosing field as related to my cause of interest, right? Now, I go on to say, I am a member of the World Economic Forum Global Chapters Community, a United Nations Global Youth Ambassador for a World at School. I was the youth delegate from Nigeria to the 2015 World Economic Forum in South Africa and the 2016 United Nations Conference on Global Citizenship also in South Africa. Then I went on to say, I am proud to say I have traveled to over 17 countries speaking on and advocating for teams that borders on how education, I mean quality education, can be made affordable and accessible to all. Now I am about to end. And remember, you want to give punchline. So these experiences are my resolve to transforming local communities through education represent unconventional outlets of lifelong learning that I found deeply fulfilling, which I believe can be further buttressed through the support of the Chevening Scholarship. That's a typical response. Not even a typical response. That was my response to the tell us about yourself in 2017. Now, because I was saying that, I will respond to what Uzo Tribe is saying. There is no typical time limit. And I don't know who is generating controversy in the length of the time that 2 minutes, 3 minutes. My sister, if you are not done, because I don't know why you want to breeze in and breeze out and come out and say, we are done and dusted.
My time.
Nobody is giving you time limit, right? It is not a do or die affair, but it's the only opportunity you have to maximize a lifetime opportunity. As time permits you, go ahead and deliver on, justify the response that they are asking you. Tell me about yourself is an exhaustive question. There's a lot of things you can share about yourself, but remember the framework that I've mentioned is talk about your current position, your previous professional experiences, communities you belong to, awards and honors that you think is needed, and that would do you justice. Babe, I want you to spotlight this blessing that asked question. It seems is asked repeatedly.
Okay. So I think that question is very important because I don't know where I was not asked this question though, but I think maybe they
So
asked.
they don't ask other people. It is 100% irrelevant, right? Yes, nobody's gonna ask you this. To be honest, the only thing is that while you are being psychologically concentrated within your delivery, do not go and mention something that you are not sure about. It is important because while you have 4 major questions that you're expected to respond to, your responses, regardless of how loaded it is with facts and figures, they can decide to build on it. Yeah. So if you have mentioned something and somebody say, okay, that thing that you mentioned, I want to learn more about it. Okay. As I want to learn more about it, then that's totally on you. You understand? And I think I need to repeat that this session is about those who have been invited to Chevening Interview session. Because the last question I just received, the Holy Spirit is in me.
Because there are different sets of people on the call also.
On the call. I see that. I see that.
Okay, so I just needed to say something because there's also this misconception about, going for interviews and being a founder, being a volunteer, and things like that. Let me tell you,
Mm-hmm.
like this current cohort that I'm in, there are people from Nigeria who don't own organizations, who don't run organizations, but they work with other organizations, but they fit themselves in the bigger picture. So Chevening is not, particular about if you run an organization or if you maybe start up something. Because I see that one of the things that people are trying to do is to also start up things so that they can justify their impact. You can be in an organization as a volunteer and be on your A game and contribute on the larger picture. And because this call is basically for those that got to the interview stage and are trying to prepare for their interview, about having no volunteer experience, I'm not sure we can answer any question on that. But honestly, if you are going for achieving, they will ask you. Recently they've been asking for 2 years work experience, so I think that answers your question. So I think we have just one more question. um Somebody said, I'm going to answer this question and maybe Larry can add. Do I need like a community of audience to apply for Chivney, like a YouTube page, blog, podcast, or sort? Let me just say this. First of all, I know that this question is off this call. Right. I just wanted to reiterate that. But if you're going to apply for Chivney, please make Chivney website your friend. And if you want to watch YouTube videos, please do so. But trust me, like the bulk of the work relies on you. No matter the tips and tricks and everything, you still need to, do your own job like personally. So even if you belong to a community, I know many people who belong to community, and that doesn't even determine 0% chances of getting training or getting past the interview stage. At this point, even if you belong to a community, I think one of the things that you can be doing is mock interview for yourselves. Trust me, don't try to compare or try to give too many information. I know that this is a personal journey. Trust me, like everyone is trying to get in. So, in as much as you have a community, please take personal time off to make sure that you are focused on what you are trying to get in your interview. Trust me, it's not a war zone, but it is a war zone, and you don't want to do a lot of come together, and in the end, you don't get in. So it's very, very important. Somebody said this. I don't know if I have the right question to it. This second to the last question I'm going to put up, and one more question, and we are done for the day.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, Larry.
So yeah, let me take this. So one thing that you should know is that you're going to get an email, or even if you don't get the email, they are going to ask you to bring a physical letter, a physical reference letter to the interview. So if you've made this typical mistake, there's every tendency that you can print out that letter. I mean, the other one. You said uploaded one letter twice, right? You can print the other one as well as the other one, the two letters, separate letters, and take them to your interview panel. But before that time, you can also send that letter via email to the Chevening officer in your home country, right? So those are two
Yeah.
ways that you can manage that kind of mistake.
Okay, so this is the last question. I will answer this and then Larry can add if he has anything. When asked
Okay.
if you have questions for the panel, what's the best way to answer this without asking a question that's easily researchable and things like that? So let me just say this. When they ask you that, do you have any question? It's generally some people can say it's okay to say no, but for someone like me who my goal is to kill it 100% and leave no chances, I'm going to ask a question. And if I remember very well, there was the question I asked was pertaining to the alumni body, right? I said, I am aware. So also before you ask a question, make sure that what you're asking is something that you understand. Before you go and say, I know that there is no alumni body, there is. So don't go and say you want to form alumni body. It's very important. I said that I am aware that there's I think I'm aware that there is an alumni body, an
Uh,
active alumni body for that matter. But is there like like a group in the alumni body that has to do with environmental sustainability? Because I know that the UK is very, very interested, and that's one of their priority areas. See the way I even asked question and even told them that I know that this is a priority area for UK in Nigeria. So it's a test of your knowledge. Sometimes you know, but you want to ask so that you can keep the conversations going. So don't just say, I don't have any questions. Bye. It doesn't work that way. So have questions, and you can ask questions like, what's like when you get back, what does it look like? Is there like any support? When I say support system, I don't mean money, like the support alumni body or something, but demonstrate that you know that there's an alumni body, because Chevening always punch on that there is an existing alumni body. So don't go and say you want to start alumni that already existed like how many years ago. Very important.
Okay, I think it would be good for me to add to that as well.
Yeah.
I get the angle of trying to ask a question that makes you intelligently stand out, just like you've quoted it. I mean, do not allow the pressure to actually sound different or sound intelligent influence or inform you to ask something that would be stupid. And it
Yeah.
can happen sometimes. I mean, I've had people ask very ridiculous questions in the name of trying to stand out. So, one thing I think you can do is, of course, part of the reasons that you want to stay memorable enough would be um, would be for you to ask something that the panel can remember. Ensure that it falls into three different things, right? It's either about the support for Chevening in your home country, or something that relates to the alumni, or something that relates to the British High Commission or FCDO, right? The panels or the panelists are not subject matter experts from that know about UK universities. Maybe you want to ask very specific questions about you know, the universities you've selected. So you may not make your question to be related to courses you've selected or universities you've selected. It could be by and large around the scholarship itself. It could be things around what your experiences would be like. In the UK, you can ask the alumni on the panel, you know, how did you cope with,
Yeah.
the code, for example? How did you cope with academic rigor? That in itself is a big subject. You understand? Sorry, scholar. Exactly. You can ask those questions and they will find it interesting, right?
Yeah.
That you are trying to ask questions that can enable you to maximize your Chevening experience, right? So that's
Yeah.
a good example of a typical question that shows that you are trying to maximize your experience, right? So I think that's it.
Okay, so I think that was really, really good, because I don't think that anyone should be focusing too much on, neck deep into researching what questions to ask, right? When they are just,
You can
casual.
No, you can actually ask a question. Sorry, Temi. You can actually ask a question that you are going to research. My own point is that it doesn't have to be complex for him to sound
That's what
intelligent.
I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
But you can actually research, you understand, to be able to get those kind of questions. You get me?
Yeah. So one other thing that I remember for my own cohorts, there was also, in fact, I think I asked them two questions. The other question I asked them was, we are just coming from COVID era, and I knew that during COVID, the last set before me, they all took their classes online. And I'm like, now that is now post, we were still in the pandemic per se. Now that everything is now going, a bit subtle, I asked that, is there like a support system just in case anything happens, maybe call-ins and things like that? And they were like, oh, that's a very good question. That's true. And yeah, we'll definitely let you know. The questions I was asking, it was more like, yeah, I was already in the UK. Tell me what you're going to be doing and things like that. So I correct myself, please research your questions, but like Larry said, don't make it too complex just to sound intelligent. Trust me, there is a conversation. I think that's basically all that we have for today. If you have any other question, I'm going to paste this Gmail again that I pasted earlier, and it's called askascholarng@gmail.com, right? And I know somebody was talking about sending DMs and everything, and trust me, it's not easy. Like, we do so many things. I'm officially like studying in the UK, so it's not very easy for me to be responding to DMs every time personally. Sometimes it can be very draining. So no hard feelings, no personal issues at all. But just like I said, make sure that you've applied to your universities, or if you have not applied to your universities, University of Sussex, you don't need IELTS or things like that, or English proficiency. Send us an email, or send University of Sussex an email, and then we can see how we can help, so that we don't now lose in the grand scheme, all because of application. And I like to
Yeah.
say this. some schools would would not respond to you based on the volume of applications that they have, or will not respond on time. And I know that people like Ivy League schools and things like that, but sometimes it's very good to do your research. I do environment development and policy, and there was nowhere better on earth I would have studied that except Sussex in the UK, right? Because they
Yep.
are ranked first in development for the in the world 5 years back to back. So it's not just about the name of the school; it's also about the ranking in that particular course you are going to. So it's very, very important. And also check your modules and things like that. Be familiar with your essay, be familiar with your school. For example, in Sussex, there's a beach, there's social life. You can talk about it. It's not just academics. And I think that, is there any final, do you have any final words for us, Larry? Like
Yeah,
final
sure.
words?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it is really important for me to mention that if you have reached out to me or reached out to Tammy and nobody have responded, I mean, trust me, we decided to put this webinar together to ensure that we are able to respond to people, right? And ensure that even if we can't dedicate personal time to support people, people can join the call and, have an exciting time. It is important to note right now that one of the most significant resource for preparing for a Chevening interview was a Chevening mock interview that I participated in 2018. It is currently the most watched Chevening mock interview video on YouTube. You can search for this video to complement what you've learned on this call by going to YouTube and searching Chevening Scholarship Mock Interview. Chevening Scholarship Mock Interview. I've received a lot of feedback from a lot of people on how significant the session, the video was for them. I mean, some people just watch it and then they go for their interviews and they come out brilliantly. I would look forward to seeing a lot of scholars come from these sessions, right? Thank you so much for joining. I think that's pretty much everything from my hand.
So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. This is 2 hours, and you guys stay to the end. Roughly, we had about 100 people on this call. It was fluctuating at one time, network and things like that. And somebody asked me if this call was recorded rather. I'm not sure about this platform that I'm currently using, but I will check my YouTube, and if you check back and find it, that means it was recorded. And if not, I am so sorry. The platform probably didn't allow me to record based on the subscription we have for it. But yeah, Larry wants to say something, and then I'll just give my
Yeah.
final.
I mean, I just wanted to say thank you, darling, for putting this together. That's why I love you. This is really this is the first time I would ever, do something like this with you. So great job. And it was exciting doing this together with you.
Thank you so much. Now
All right. Then.
everybody is.
Eh? Everybody can go.
You see,
Everybody can
everybody
go.
knows. Like, I thought we were colleagues, bro.
You know who
Guys.
is colleague.
Okay, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
We are colleagues, yeah. We are Chevening colleagues.
And thank you so much, Mrs. Layola Depo. We see you. We acknowledge your presence. You've been on this call. I'm not sure if I want to say who you are, but yeah, if you know who she is, thank you so much, Ma, for joining. You are always present in such webinars like this, and God bless you so much. We really appreciate it.
Spotlight the email again. Somebody is asking.
Okay, I'm just going to do that one more time.
So that's the end of it. But if we have guys who want to stay back to check the email, thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, guys, so that's the email. Please do send, an email to this email for, not just for random questions, please. It's for those that are just joining in. It's for people that want to apply to success, or you want to, get your response on time. So it's very, very important. Thank you so much, everyone. We are so, so grateful, and thank you for joining. It took us a lot to put this.
Babe, I'm seeing Chevening couple. Chevening will not sponsor our wedding like this. I mean, it's such an humbling honor. Huh?
Yeah.
I know, right? I know. Oh, so cute. So cute. Anyways, we are still very much here. I think we should also acknowledge one of our leaders who actually joined, Mr. Tosin Adebisi,
Yes, Mr.
the
Tosin.
Senior International Officer of the University of Sussex. Thank you, Mr. Tosin, for joining. I mean, And I'm also seeing our Chevening officer that is laughing at us for say, "What, daddy colleague?" Yeah, but it
I'm
was
just
exciting.
joking. This is not my colleague.
Ah, somebody is saying they want to get spouse in the UK. I didn't meet my spouse in the UK. Oh. Eh.
Oh yeah, let's just quickly
But
let me
you can
quickly.
spice up your responses. And if they ask you, don't go and mention you want to go to the UK to go and look for a wife. Oh. Eh.
I don't know about it.
we,
But
did,
yeah,
we didn't
we
say
didn't
that.
meet
Oh.
in UK, please. Let's quickly clear
Yeah,
that before
of
anybody thinks
course.
I'm here to get
I
wife by.
mean, that was the reason why in the beginning it was good to say that all tips, claims, expressions that were made on the call doesn't represent the views and mandates of the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, the Chevening
Yes.
Secretariat, or the local British High Commissions across the world. Everything we said are based on personal and shared experiences of self, as well as other members of the Chevening alumni and scholar community. So please, it's very important to quote us right and quote us well.
Okay, so Larry, do you think that we can share our social media handles or we
Of
shouldn't?
course, we
Okay,
can
so
now. We are together in the ministry. So all my handles online is Larry Shipper.
yeah,
Um,
that's easier for him. I think anybody can get that. It's just mine
yeah,
that
Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. My handle is at Larry Shipper.
I'm typing it on the
Mm.
screen so that
Thank you to our
I need to
West
tell
African
myself
regional
text
ambassador,
text this.
Nasu.
Text
Yeah,
this.
Louis Adekola is mentioning that mock interview um, that we shot was shot at the University of Sussex. Yes, it's important to
Yeah,
mention that. Our
and
very beautiful
recently
campus.
I had a class in that venue, and when I
I saw the
saw that
picture.
location, I'm like, yes, this is the mock interview session location. And I
I
sat down
tell
and took
you.
a picture. Trust me, guys, like watch the mock interview. And I know that many people said that, it sounds like he has a lot of achievements. Trust me, like that's just Larry Shipper for you. He knows how to talk about the things that he has done. And I think anybody should be able to do that. So don't watch the interview and feel intimidated. I watched that interview so many times. I internalized it, and don't go and repeat what he has said, right? Very, very important. It's just to give you the kind of setting or a possible setting or a structure of what the whole thing looks like. And like we said, this doesn't represent the views of the FCDO or the Chevening Scholarship itself. It's just like personal experience. So please watch the mock interview because so far that's one of the best mock interviews in fact, the best interview I've seen out there, mock interview. So please watch it. Yeah, and this is Louise Andu also. And in 2, 3, 5 minutes, we're gonna close this call.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. We are so so grateful. Thank you for
For
joining this
joining.
2 hours. Now, in fact, I need to share biscuits for everyone.
Yes, so
Please,
please.
guys, come and
Please,
eat.
so thank you. Cheers, 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 cheers.
All right,
Thank you very
guys.
much, everybody. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to remove Larry Shipper now as the Texas
Ah,
that I am.
you are,
Bye.
you are
I'm
removing
removing
me.
everybody.
Okay, okay, okay. No one.
I'm just joking. Thank
That's
you
fine.
so much. And if you had a great time, it's okay. Post it on your Instagram or your Twitter and tag us. Let
And tag
everybody
us,
know
yes, let's
this
share
was a
it and
good,
all of that.
this was a good one. Yeah. Bye, guys, and have a great evening. Yeah. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Wishing you all the very best. Bye bye.